In sales, there's this idea of the frame or framing, and it's a concept that other people, counterparties, that people you're going to engage and trade with or work with, they have an idea in their head of the rules of engagement for a social situation, and it's based on their perceptions of you, the product, company, whatever, all these things, all these different little factors that touch what you're actually going to be talking about, which in case of sales would be your product. But this is true in other situations as well. And although this right now might sound like woo-woo and abstract, this is an example that is used everywhere. You go to Starbucks, they don't just have you pay and then have a tip jar off to the side. They hand you a card reader, and you have to hit no if you want to not tip. So that frames it that you are taking a choice to not tip. The normal thing is to tip, and this makes it so that way people tip a hell of a lot more. Or this also has to do with if you go to Olive Garden and they give like the little mints at Olive Garden, and the servers are trained to come and bring you the little pamphlet and give you the mints, and almost always they give you extra, which is supposed to seem like they're doing you a favor and you feel indebted to them, and then you give them a bigger tip. This is a normal thing that people get trained to do at many types of restaurants because it changes the frame that you, the customer, perceive the whole situation to be in. It's no longer that they just did their job and were a server. It's like they also went out of their way to like get a few extra mints. They had to do something for you. Now, these frames that other people try to put you in, that's one way it works. But also, I think that we frame our own situations without even realizing it, and that we have limiting beliefs that are not really true. And they're limiting because they limit our actions, and they're beliefs because they're what we believe. They're not necessarily true at all. And an example of this for me with World of Warcraft was I wasn't playing the game when 2019 came out. I was about to graduate college, and I was going to have a big break before my full-time offer would start. So I was like, okay, I'm going to have like 6 months to do whatever I want with, after being busy as all hell all the way till I was 25. So I like had a job or was in school while having a job the whole way till I was 25. I'm like, okay, I can do whatever the fuck I want now. Maybe I'll try World of Warcraft. And it's going to be a while for the 2019 shit to actually get released after they announced it. And I had a friend who's like, let's play on a TBC private server. It'll be a lot of fun. So I buy a level 70 character on this private server. He tells me rogues are great. What a fucking lie. I buy a rogue. He gets banned like fucking 3 days later for buying gold. And I'm all on my own. I'm like down $300. I'm like, I gotta fucking play this game because now I feel stupid, And I can't get into a raiding guild. And so I come to this conclusion that basically I gotta make a guild. There's a lot more details there, but the TLDR is that to make the guild, I went and messaged random people all day, every day for like 2 weeks, and then I had a 25-man roster. That's how I did it. That's super, super weird. I don't think people do that shit pretty much ever. I think generally to people, it makes them feel like they're low social status if they're asking a whole bunch of people things and they're getting hit with no's all the time, which is what'll happen if you try to recruit for your guild doing the way I did it. But at the time, I didn't have that perception at all. I had only played the game as a kid. I had not played it as an adult, and all of my memories about kind of like the rules for dealing with people in World of Warcraft were from me being a fucking child playing with the same raiding guild the whole time I played the game, and then I quit that guild and I quit the game because I realized it was a huge mistake. So like I only interacted with like 50 or 60 different humans in Ventrilo in the entire time I played World of Warcraft as a kid. So I had like a very skewed perception about how people actually see engaging with each other in the game. I thought that people had massively positive views on other players and a lot of trust with each other just because they played World of Warcraft, which is like absolutely not the case and sounds like crazy shit, I'm sure, to you people. And because of this, though, I didn't feel all that weird just hitting up strangers over and over and over again and getting the no's and be like, oh, whatever, they just have a better situation, and just doing that for like 2 weeks straight and making a guild. And nowadays, the idea of doing that would drive me fucking crazy, even though I've done it before. I know it works. I know it works. And I made a guild in 2019 on the real Blizzard servers, after doing this private server guild shit. And I couldn't get myself to do it the same way again, because then I learned that was strange. And so even though I've done it and I know it works, I wasn't really able to get myself to do it again. I had a very hard time getting a guild rolling on the Blizzard servers in 2019. And I think this is a situation that a whole lot of people are in, where they kind of know that something works, but they also definitely know that other people think it's fucking strange, you know, really strange. Other people that you're aware of will never give it another thought. Like, they'll think, huh, that's odd. And then they will care so little about it that it just goes out of their head, and you won't engage with them, and it won't affect you. It won't come back to you in any way. And yet it still impacts your decisions. You know, in the same way where there are people all the time who they go on vacation and they go to a coffee shop and they buy a coffee and they really don't want to tip, and they know they're never going to see this establishment again, and they get the card reader handed to them and they just don't want to hit no to the tip on the card reader, and they go ahead and they do it and they feel stupid. All the time, every day, hundreds of thousands of people have that fucking experience in the US alone, every single day of the week. And it's totally illogical. Totally illogical. I mean, unless you think tipping is you think the tip is appropriate in that situation, then of course it's not illogical. But a lot of people, they just feel pressured, and we put these pressures on ourselves all the time, which is I mean, some of it's good. Like, it's nice that I framed my guild in my mind where they are my real friends, and that's true. That's what I believe. They're my real friends. I'm gonna see a whole bunch of them in person. I've already seen a couple of them in person. I mean, hopefully I see everybody that sticks around, at the very least, in person a couple times in my life. That'd be really fantastic. It would make me think I'm spending my time really well, and that's a belief I have. And some of that is that it makes me super comfortable asking people anything. Because I'm just like, okay, yeah, we're like close, so I can ask you anything. There's no rules. I don't have to like worry about seeming weird, because we've already kind of like bought into each other in some way, and those are all good things. And I bet there are probably other people in my guild that feel similar to that. I probably feel more like that than most of them, because I've had just more contact with the average with people in my guild than the average person my guild has had by a lot. Like, of course, I run it. I don't have a job. Like, I got this fucking YouTube channel that has attracted most of the members, like, obviously. And some of the people probably, and this is a bad thing, but this is almost definitely the case. There's probably some guys in my guild who, they might hear me say this, and they might see other people act like they believe this, but in their head, they think that for whatever reason, they're not as integrated as other people, and they probably feel like they're the new guy, and it's like weird for them to just try to jump in and like act like they've been around and been one of the boys for a while, when this is like not a thing that is in the mind of anybody, basically, and in most functional communities, at least. I don't think this is really a thing people think. And why would it not make sense for people in functional social groups to not think this shit? Well, because like the group is like based around like a very tiny amount of shared values and ideology, and that's important to people, and it's a great reducer in friction. And having more people join, generally, it has like network effects where it makes it just better for everybody involved. So like, of course, it's completely illogical for someone to join any guild where people appear really truly friendly and then feel like they are an outsider, and they're not expected to integrate, or they're worried about what they are gonna say. And this is all very unfortunate. It's just like one example I think applies to World of Warcraft. I think a lot of people have probably joined guilds at some point in time and felt like there are unspoken rules that they probably don't know about, like rules of engagement with other people, and they're thinking, oh, eventually I'll figure that out. And then they go and they just don't talk to people, and they kind of wish that they did, because the game's better when you do have friends in it. And then they just like petter along, not having the experience they want, because they have this fake set of beliefs in their head that just makes their lives worse. And this phenomena is all over the place in the world at all times. I felt like I saw it all the time in college, actually, where I'd run into other people in engineering classes. And when you're a student in college, internships are, they're seen as like a really special thing. It kind of depends on your major. Majors where internships don't really increase career prospects that much, or where the internships don't pay, I bet that people don't care about it as much. So like if you're like a a liberal arts major, I don't think that internships are like a huge thing. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but with like engineering or like business students, it's a really, really big thing. And it's on people's minds. And I would run into other students who would they'd have beliefs like, oh, you can't get an internship unless you're special, and that you need to have an amazing resume, or you need nepotism to come into play, or all these other things to actually get anywhere. And then they don't want to feel odd by going through the grind of doing hundreds and hundreds of apps and showing up to interviews and getting fucking roasted and getting rejections. And so instead they just kind of freeze up and do nothing, and they try to stay in whatever that frame of mind that they have is, and they want their life to just be on rails, and they're not making decisions and taking actions that they really think are going to go anywhere. They're just kind of letting life happen to them, which is terrible. It's super, super bad. I think that's most people, though. I think most people do that with the majority of their lives. They feel like they're on rails on some like predetermined path, and they have very little ability to like steer the course of what's going on. And some people, that's the case, and they're very happy. And I guess that's fine. It's like it would be probably better if they believe they're more free, since they are. But if you're having a great time, I guess it's whatever. But there's a lot of people that aren't having a great time and feel locked into stuff, and just you're really not. You're absolutely not. Like in the case of jobs and people feeling locked into shitty jobs, you could always just find a way to need less money. Most people, especially single people, you can really find a way to need less money, and then that frees up your options on doing a job you want. And I mean, especially if you're not super keen on financial dependence, retiring early type shit, like there's not a whole lot you have to lose from quitting a job, whereas I mean, if you want to get fucking rich, then like, yeah, you need to have an income stream. Then you are actually locked in. You might have a much harder problem, but that of course isn't the case for most people, and it's not like necessarily, it's probably not something to aspire to. This is a side point, but something I think that's actually really funny though about the whole trying to be really good with money thing, that a lot of people, I think they really the value, the idea of that is all of the people I know who are like 30 and did super hot financially are like kind of depressed, which is surprising, super surprising, and they feel locked into other weird things that people traditionally probably wouldn't feel locked into. Or I mean, this is like a weird thing I've been thinking about lately, is like, what do I want to do with the rest of my life? I don't really have to work, but I want to do something that feels meaningful. Like, why do I think I have to do something that's meaningful? Right? Because like anything you do is actually meaningless. So it's actually super crazy. It's just not true. You can ascribe meaning to anything. Like at the very beginning of this fresh, I was making a guild, and I mean, I have a guild now, but as I was making it wasn't really a thing. And I was trying to figure out how I was going to do this, and I started pitching stuff in the YouTube videos, and then people started hitting me up, and at the start it was like 10 people a day, and I was like, oh shit, I don't have enough time to talk to everyone. And so I was like scheduling people out like days in advance, and then I was just talking to different people all day, every day, like 10-12 hours a day for 2 months. Like the first 2 months of fresh, I was literally talking to people like 70-80 hours a week. I was like sleeping like 5 or 6 hours a night because I was just like so excited to do this. And I was just actually busy enough that I didn't have enough time to get enough sleep, like actually, which I've told myself shit like that before in my life. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm so busy as a college student, I have to cut sleep now. That was fucking bullshit. Or like jobs, like I've done that before, like that's fucking bullshit. But this, I was actually that busy, and I felt super fulfilled, like it was a really meaningful experience. And I still feel that way. But and I'm happy I did it, because like now I have this guild. But what actually made that valuable was just the way that I internalized the experience. It's not just like there's not some transcendent rule that like, oh yeah, like going and talking to strangers for 3 to 4 hours per stranger, like to 3 or 4 people a day, like that's just naturally like some kind of valuable experience to have. I don't think that is the case, but it felt really great to me. And then maybe tying this back to World of Warcraft in a more direct way, if you could change your mind about what is meaningful in the game, it could make you feel better. I used to be, and I'm still very serious about performance in raid and doing the best you can. I think it really matters and makes social groups more stable. But I used to, before this guild, I used to be so concerned about that, and it was a really big part of how I like characterize my own persona, was like really focusing on raid stuff. And now it's still very important, but it's much less important. And I would much rather a raid, for example, be a bit slower, and for me to have the perception that nobody had a bad time. Like, that's really important to me, that like everybody is having like a neutral or a positive experience, at least as far as I have control over that, because you don't have, like, you don't have a whole lot of control over that. People just get tired of the game, but you do have a little bit of control, and I think that's like where I try to exercise it, is okay, like I could do a strat where I think that we're gonna wait an extra 10 seconds before we do a pull, so I can say something or we can get something more organized, and then there's a much lower chance that one of the melee dies on a tech pack. And I think that has I just believe that has a big impact on how those individual melee players who would lose their buffs, how they would feel about the raid. But I didn't always feel this way. I used to think that, I personally care a lot about the run speed, and other people will, at least on surface level, say that they really care about the run speed because they joined a guild with the mission of clearing faster. And back then, when I used to think more just about the run speeds, I was super comfortable with just being like, yeah, we're going to pull this. It's going to be a little sloppy. Like, a couple melee are probably going to die. Like, fucking whatever. It's all right. We're going to save 10 seconds. So, like, them being dead is, like, worth it. Like, I can make this decision, like, 3-4 times a raid and, like, kill, like, a fifth of the raid even, and it could still actually maybe be worth it. Granted, that's a lot of people. So, like, that's probably not actually, like, totally true. But that was just the way I felt about it. But I changed that over time. What I found meaningful about the experience changed, and that shifted my focus and made me feel differently. And now when I raid, it's a lot less likely that I have a negative experience myself, because it's actually a much easier goal to go 95% as hard as you think you can, and to try to have a run be a little more consistent than it is to try to actually do your best every time. Trying to actually do your best every time puts a whole lot of variance into the situation. A fucking ass load. And I just find that more uncomfortable now, and so I don't focus on it. And maybe some of you guys playing the game, you're in a guild and you think the raid is a waste of time, and you like the people, and you believe that you can't get the raid group to do any better because you're not the GM, you're not the raid leader, they don't want to listen to you, like all this shit. And you should probably see if you can convince yourself that that's not true, because even if you couldn't get your guild to do any better, if you thought that you could, and better by whatever your own metric is. I mean, it could even just be you think a couple people in a guild are really nice, and you think the raid time's weird, and it's very unlikely you could ever find another guild. And there could be people in the guild you really don't like, but you still like this community because it just really ticks a couple boxes for you, and feeling like you're empowered and can actually change things, even if you're fucking wrong, it's probably going to make you feel better, because then it's going to provide you with a problem, and you can start creating solutions to that problem and actually taking actions that then they'll feel meaningful because you're accomplishing something. But if you get fucking sick of that and you just want to quit on trying to fix shit around you, you can just join my guild, because I'm going to be working on it all the time. So yeah, hit me up in Discord, guys. Thanks for listening. Peace.